Start with what just happened over the past 62 minutes on The View. And it's not even one of my wacky View clips for you where we just make fun of Sunny or Joy. I mean, we love those. But this is like legit Joe Biden, who's on, well, you guys will tell me what he's doing here. And I'll tell you what Mark Halperin says. He's on some sort of a rehabilitation tour. Well, okay. Anyway, he goes on to The View, and it wasn't rehabilitative at all.
We have to start with what just happened over the past 62 minutes on The View. And it's not even one of my wacky View clips for you, where we just make fun of Sunny or Joy. I mean, we love those. But this is like legit Joe Biden who's on, well, you guys will tell me what he's doing here, and I'll tell you what Mark Halperin says. He's on some sort of a rehabilitation tour. Okay. Anyway, he goes on to The View, and it wasn't rehabilitative at all. What do you get when you mix Joe Biden mumbling his way through yet another teleprompter disaster with the hosts of The View pretending nothing's wrong? You get a beautiful train wreck, and Megyn Kelly just showed up with a flamethrower. Buckle up, because today we're diving straight into a savage roast where Megyn doesn't just fire back, she torches the whole panel. From Biden's classic senior slip-ups to Joy Bahar's hilarious brain fog, this is the kind of chaotic circus you didn't know you were craving. And trust me, the first person she lit up will shock you. I've noticed that Trump can't stop talking about you. He's obsessed with you. He, as of late April, he had mentioned you and your family and your administration at least 580 times. That's where talking shrinkland now, because you know when you're obsessed with somebody you have to look in yourself and say what is going on here. And at his Trump's cabinet meeting last week, your name was invoked 52 times, and he blamed you for the economic mess that his tariffs are causing. Why is he so fixated on you and blaming you for everything? I beat him. It was a completely average Tuesday. Birds chirping, coffee brewing, and somewhere in America, Whoopi Goldberg was once again committing a crime against common sense. Enter Joe Biden, the man, the myth, the human teleprompter fail. And of course, The View saw it as the perfect time to roll out their decorative ferns, burst into forced laughter, and sink like a broken laugh track while pretending this wasn't a full-blown train wreck, leaving behind a smoke trail thick enough to trigger the studio sprinklers. Here's a little bit more. Speaking of those around him who covered up, his infirmity, or at least that's where my mind went. Dr. Jill was there too, and, as usual, came to the rescue. Watch SAT 38. What is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong? They are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that. Number one. Number two, think about what we're left with. We left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection, and I started the people who wrote those books were not in the White House with us, and they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day. Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president. She says none of these people writing the books work for us. Well, one of the first to have his book hit interviewed Ron Clay, who was Joe Biden's chief of staff for almost all of his presidency. And he went on the record saying that Biden thought he was president of NATO. Where was that follow-up? Ladies of The View, now picture the scene. Biden shuffles onto the set like a confused grandpa who accidentally wandered into a high school play while the hosts of The View burst into applause. So forced you could practically hear their contracts whispering, "Please don't get fired." It was meant to be a heartwarming presidential moment, but what we got felt more like bingo night colliding with bad improv, topped off with a level of denial so strong it could power Joy Bahar's flat iron. He could barely spit it out. He threw that one out there, too. My goodness. He and Obama are two peas in a pot on this sexism and racism. If you didn't vote for her, that's obviously what she thinks, too. But the nerve of this guy, of all people, to come out and say that's why she lost. Yeah. I mean, here's the deal, Megyn. They're putting him out there to provide proof of life because a lot of people are wondering. They hadn't seen him in a while, but at some point in every person's life, you go from rehab to palliative care. He is definitely in the palliative care category, right? But don't worry, America's favorite. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed media assassin Megyn Kelly watched this glitter-coated disaster unfold with the kind of disdain usually saved for soggy toast and TikTok life coaches. And yes, she had thoughts. Megyn didn't just critique the episode. She scorched it, torched the set, roasted the teleprompter, and salted the earth where the cue cards once stood. Oh, they asked him about that. They asked him about that moment. Watch this 36. When the vice president was here, I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was there is not a thing that comes to mind. Now, that answer was weaponized against her. There's been some reporting that you encouraged her because, let's be honest, watching The View handle a Joe Biden appearance is like asking a group of drunk raccoons to host the Olympics. The bar is so low, it's underground, and somehow they still manage to trip over it. Every nod, every awkward chuckle, every pre-approved softball question tossed at Biden felt like lobbing marshmallows at a bear. The whole thing was a parade of desperation dressed up in glitter tape. Did that clear rival? Have clarity on it. Now, that gerbil is having a hard time spinning the wheel. That is about as torturous as I've ever seen. It was torturous. And on Sunny's part too, they're like she's trying to hand this off to Biden and hopefully he can take it from there, right? Okay, she wants to straight face tell us that what the question was like, what sort of wins would you have changed? That's an actual question you would ask a person. It doesn't make any logical. She didn't just roast it. She marinated it in disdain, slow-cooked it in righteous contempt, and served it on a silver platter labeled, "How are these women still employed?" Megyn Kelly didn't need cards or a glam team whispering affirmations in her ear. She came armed with functioning brain cells and the radical idea of using basic logic. Watching her break it all down was like watching someone solve a Rubik's Cube while everyone else was busy licking the stickers. She dissected The View's cringeworthy performance with the precision of a neurosurgeon and the joy of someone who's been waiting for this moment ever since someone thought it was a good idea to hand Whoopi a producer credit. The View tried to sell Biden's appearance as a win. The same way toddlers probably show off finger paintings that look like abstract versions of stomach problems. But Megyn saw through the glitter glue and called it what it truly was. Political necromancy, with The View hosts running the seance. She didn't just set them on fire. She lit up their entire set like it was sponsored by California wildfire season. The level of delusion was so deep you half expected the show to be brought to you by a pharmaceutical company that specializes in denial. And through all of it, Megyn stood tall. And not literally because she was seated, but spiritually like a lighthouse shining through a storm of caffeinated confusion. What the hell was he talking about? By the way, he was like, I've never seen such an effective, misogynistic campaign. What the hell? That's actually a first take. I know that Democrats say, well, it's because the country is misogynistic and racist and all those things, but he's pointing the finger basically at the Trump campaign, saying that they had this. Well, if you go back to the ad slate of the messaging matrix that the Trump administration put together in the course of that campaign, it was immigration. It was crime. It was the horrible economy. None of these things are gender specific because here's the truth. The View didn't interview Joe Biden. They babysat him. They spoon-fed him sanitized questions so bland they made hotel oatmeal seem edgy. And they clapped like proud parents every time he finished a sentence without calling someone corn pop. It was a celebration of mediocrity so loud that even the ghost of Walter Cronkite probably filed a noise complaint. And Megyn, she came in swinging like she was training for a heavyweight match against gaslighting. Commentary wasn't just sharp as it had teeth, claws, and a personal grudge against every badly hidden cue card behind the cameras. She called out, not so gently, that watching The View pretend everything was fine during Biden's speech glitches was like watching a family pretend the Thanksgiving turkey didn't just explode in the oven. This wasn't journalism. It was fanfiction by committee. A group therapy session where the hosts held hands and tried to manifest a fantasy world where Biden was sharp, the economy was booming, and their show still mattered. Spoiler alert, none of that actually happened. Someone sang the way that she's beyond effusive of being so, here's the thing. Because of your record of tremendous successes, dear leader, what are you asking him a question? Joe Biden, tell us your greatest weakness. And you know what's so amazing? You know what's so amazing about it, you guys, is that here she's like, I am not going to make the same mistake twice. I already up KLA Harris's run for the office, and I am not going to do anything to undermine this guy, so I'm just going to give him the answer and the question and so she declined to distinguish any of her policies from all the ones that you did so successfully. What's your reaction to that?
Right.
So she's trying to give him the softball like that, and then he has no idea what she is. And what did Megyn do with all of this? She dismantled it like a reality.